Yay. I am back. Let's hope this is better. Because if it's not, then there's nothing else I can do tonight, and we'll hopefully figure it out. Okay. Let's see. Okay, everybody. We still have a handful of people here. Okay. I'm here. I'm here. Trisha says, Dana, where are you? Um, Adrian is here. So Doug is here. Hot Potato is here. Okay, we're getting more and more people trickling in. So hopefully. Nope. Urgh, I just got that error message again. I don't know what the problem is. Why? Ah, frustration. I am so sorry, you guys. I don't know what the issue is. Um, I will, I don't know, take my computer to Best Buy before next Wednesday and we'll figure it out. So Trisha says, Hi, Dana. Hi, I'm here. I'm here. Until the computer starts acting up again. I don't know. Oh, I love that. Okay, Adrian says, Yes, Trisha, I feel like I'm finally getting somewhere with understanding a lot about my life. My mother was also a narcissist. It's kind of amazing how a traumatic relationship can open a door to awakening and understanding the roots of your life. Totally. Like, totally. That I think is, I'm a big believer in that there's gifts in everything. Like there's gifts in everything. It's just we have to figure out what that is. And a lot of it's what we make of it too, right? So with a relationships, especially, they're such a great they can be such a great mirror to show us what is still kind of going on within us and within obviously like our past with our family dynamic and everything. And it's really 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 wild when you start realizing that if you have kind of like a problematic relationship in one dynamic of your life, kind of how we do something is how we tend to do everything. So that dynamic isn't just, it tends to not just be coincidence. I mean, sometimes it is, like sometimes it is, but 9 out of 10 times, if not even more, like 9.5 out of 10 times, it tends to be this repeating pattern. So it's really worth us examining the dynamic that we had with our parents or with friends or at work or with our for sure with ourselves. Um, it's just really 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 eye opening. I went out to dinner with a friend tonight, and we were talking about just that. And we have a coworker at work who does the silent treatment a lot, and so there's three of us that all work together, and we're all pretty we're good work friends. This other gal that I went out to dinner with, her and I are much closer friends. We hang out on the weekend and stuff. And anyways, her and I both, nobody's a fan of the silent treatment, right? Like nobody likes getting that. Well, this one coworker does silent treatment stuff a lot, and I had called her on it. I'd mentioned it to her about, I don't even know, 6 months or so ago, and I had said, hey, is there some sort of issue? Because I life's too short for tension, and let's just talk about it. And she actually started crying, and I think in part she began crying because she didn't know what to say. The silent treatment, there was stuff wrong, but she wasn't comfortable talking about it. So it was easier for her just to stay mad and stomp around all day than it was to actually say, "Hey, can you, I picked up 10 phone calls, can you pick up a few?" or whatever the issue was. And um so anyways, our tension is for the most part resolved. However, okay, so let me rewind a little bit. So she had said that initially when I had brought it up and said, "Hey, this is kind of like, if there's an issue, just let me know. I don't, whatever I'm doing, it's not with the intention of upsetting you." She'd blamed the silent treatment and her being upset on stuff at home, like within her marriage. And while that might have been valid, that wasn't the issue. Like there was legitimate stuff that she was upset about. She just wasn't comfortable talking about it. She doesn't really do silent treatment stuff to me so much anymore because she knows I am going to mention it to her. My other coworker um, uh, hadn't mentioned stuff. Not to say that I'm like great with boundaries because this is such a huge evolution with me too. This is just an example I'm giving, but my coworker hadn't mentioned anything to her, and she realized, she began thinking like, well, you know, this other coworker was doing all the silent treatment stuff and it was really uncomfortable, and she hadn't realized that that had been kind of this repeating pattern for her and her life. And so we just had this amazing conversation at dinner, and it was just all of these aha moments that we were both having about how we kept finding ourselves with these same issues and these same repeating patterns in so many different aspects of our life. And I think, the universe will do that, right? Like until we fully learn the lesson, then the universe is going to keep giving us the lesson. It doesn't go away. And so I think that's what's so important, because it's oftentimes, especially in these problematic relationships, that the relationship is it's a sign of a bigger issue that tends to be going on. That bigger issue tends to be going on in many different areas of our life. And it can be this amazing personal growth experience. Definitely, none of us would have willingly signed up for this, had we known. But it's the gift in this is that it's amazing personal growth if we can harness, if we can get that out of it. And I know that that might even feel like maybe kind of re-victimizing to some people, and I definitely do not mean that by any stretch. But the reality is, if we're here, right, like if we've gone through this, especially if we have a pattern of going through this, because I know for me I did, if we have a pattern of going through these kinds of one-sided problematic, highly problematic relationships, then it's worth looking at, and it's worth kind of seeing what else could possibly be going on here. So, okay, Doug says, I hope Dana sees your question, hot potato. So, Dana did not. So let me scroll up and see. Okay, I don't see hot potato question. Ben there does ask a question. Says, so Dana, when a narcissist does not hoover at the end, what is going on with the narcissist? Generally, if they're not coming around, they've found another source of supply. So they, um, you know, and that generally is how that cycle goes. So we have generally already been replaced before the discard. That's why they move on so quickly. It's not that they just found a person the day after they broke up with us. That person's been in the wings for a while. So to us, it looks like they've moved on at this like, lightning fast speed, but really they haven't. They'd moved on months before. We're just, let the last ones to know. So um, if they're not hoovering, then they're getting some source of supply from somebody else. But they, of course, they can and they generally do will come back around and will hoover that way. So it's you know it's you just always have to keep your emotional guard up around manipulative people at all times. So let me scroll up again. Okay, whatever I did is still not fixing the live stream. That's really frustrating. I'm really sorry, guys. Okay. Okay, there it is. Hot Potato says, so I have a flying monkey issue. I'm friends with a guy who is my narcissist's closest friend, and at times I feel like I want to mention and try to communicate. I want to mention STG. I want to mention and try to communicate about his narcissistic traits. Should I? I would not mention anything to anybody about your ex. To If it can get back to your ex, I definitely wouldn't mention it. I wouldn't even bring it up. Yeah, she says, so should I just avoid mentioning him altogether? Yeah, I for sure would. There's no benefit. If you think about it, like what would be the upside to that scenario? You know? Um it's There's not one. So somebody says, Dana, try clearing your web cache. Gosh, all of this technology, it's like doing math on the spot. And you guys are making me do technology stuff on the spot. Stressful. Okay, clearing my browsing history. God. God save us all. I don't know. I'm pushing buttons. I hope this works out. It's like, I don't know if this is going to work. I think there's a way I can set it up to automatically clear my browsing history. I wonder if that really is it, because it says that I have over 6,000 items on my browsing history, which seems significant. So let's see if that helps at all. Okay, let me scroll up and see what I have missed. So, hot potato, back to your situation. That I am, uh, I'm shocked that you could be friends with somebody that's that close of a friend to your ex narcissist. I mean, like, I'm impressed because I would have a really hard time not saying anything. So, oh, nope, there's that error message again. So we'll see. We'll see if it works. If this helps at all. Yeah. Okay. Hot Potato says, thanks for the advice. I guess I would just like to know how to respond if he mentions him, actually. But I'll just say it's a sensitive topic and that I'd rather not get into that. Yeah, if you can. I mean, again, that's really hard. I mean, that's gotta be really hard. I guess trying to remind yourself that it's like the odds of him going back and telling your ex everything that you said, especially if they're close friends, is really high. Like that probably will happen. So, just know that. Yeah, a lot of their friends are clueless about their true nature. I mean, abusive people tend to only be abusive to certain people. And so I mean, and that's what's so crazy making about it, because to a lot of people, they just love them. They can't say enough wonderful things about them. So they don't, that's why they're like, no, you've got to be the problem. You must be the liar because this person is so fantastic that they just, like, they don't see it because in their mind, they have this idea of what an abusive person is. And their friend doesn't match that. So, let's see. Milt is here. Welcome. Okay. Pro 4 ants. is here. Adrian is here. Welcome, welcome. Lauren is here. S9 says, I'm having a bad month. My kids are acting out. Holidays and birthdays. I'm just trying to cope. So, yeah, I think this sounds like this would be good practice then for you to really double up on your self-care and figure out how can you make this month as enjoyable as possible, and doing that, kind of in small ways throughout the day, and just try to make the best of the situation. I think that's kind of all any of us can do when we're faced with that amount of stress. It's, again, it's sort of like the universe just saying, like, hey, okay, how are you going to handle this? And us hopefully at least trying to rise to meet the challenge. I know that is so much easier said than done, but it's, the one thing that I think, will you'll never look back on this point in your life and think to yourself, boy, I really wish I would have worried about that more. Or, boy, I really wish I would have stressed out about that more. Like, you won't think back to that in a month from now. So just kind of keep that in mind. Stephanie says, I've been wanting to press charges against my ex for rape and assault for a while now. I really think I'm ready for this, but I don't want to give him the satisfaction of knowing he still affects me today. Wow, that's intense. So, yeah, that's gonna have to be a personal call. I don't know the history of your situation, and if you, um, you know, would be able to, if you had, if you went to the hospital after you were attacked, um, and all of that, and if you filed a report with the police or anything like that. But I would definitely talk to maybe non-emergency police or an attorney, um, and just kind of get an idea of what you'd be going through before you do it, just so you can prepare yourself as best as possible emotionally. And I'm really sorry that you had to go through something like that, and that you did go through something like that, and that, um, you know that you're faced with this today. And I think if you did decide to go to court, you can do the whole gray rock technique, where it's, you try to just detach emotionally as much as possible, to let, so, he doesn't feel like he's still affecting you. It's just sort of like, yeah, nope, I don't think anything at all about you anymore. Like, I'm over and done with it. I just feel like justice needs to be done. And it's not because you're a huge deal to me or in my life. It's that, what you did was illegal, and, it's not okay. Like, you violated me. I'm not okay with it. I'm filing charges. I'm taking my power and control back. Yeah, that's what it's about. It's about you regaining your power and control. It's not about, him being significant. So, there's a little bug in here. So, okay. S9 says, Dana, I liked the book notes. I got them today. Cool. Did you get the book notes from the email that I sent out? I just finished doing the book notes from the book, Controlling People by, oh shoot. I keep forgetting her name, and she's like my new favorite author right now. Darn, I can't remember her name. She's the same gal that wrote, The Verbally Abusive Relationship. And she's fantastic. So, the great book, super interesting book. Highly recommend it. If you go to my website and you look at the tab Book Club, you can read all of my notes. And if you sign up for the email newsletter, I will email them to you. I email them at the beginning of every month for all the books, in case for those people that don't really want to read the book or don't have time to read the book, but they still want to see what the book was about. Patricia Evans, thank you. Lauren says Patricia Evans is the author. Yes. Oh, before I forget, and I need to send out an email about this. I will do this either tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. But um, hold on, there's still technical issues. Oh, frustrating. So tomorrow at 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be doing a live stream Google Hangout, which will be with Spartan Life Coach. So we're gonna do a Google Hangout tomorrow, Thursday, at what is that? April 7th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so it's just going to be kind of question and answer. And so if I can't get this thing figured out for next week, then we will might have to see about just switching over and doing a Google Hangouts from here off. So let's see. Let me scroll down. I'm not even sure if anybody can hear this because it sounds like there is some sort of issue now with the sound. Like, I just don't understand. I don't understand the chaos that is this live stream every stinking week. Trisha asks, what is a Google Hangout and how do we access a group Google Hangout? And Adrian says, yes, I told you, Dana, Hangouts. So yes, the Google Hangout is going to be through Spartan Life Coach's Google Hangout. So I think if you go subscribe to his channel, then he'll have, I think it links, I'm not quite sure because I've never done it before, but I think it'll show when we're live. I have tried Periscope. Okay, Margaret says, no, please do the live stream too. I don't know about Google Hangouts. So my goal with these live streams is going to be to do multiple live streams all at once. So ideally, we'll be able to do the Google live or the YouTube live stream. You can also live stream through Facebook, through my Facebook page, and then through Periscope. I was doing Periscope, but I have not, I don't use Twitter, and I don't have that many Twitter followers, and I don't use Twitter. So when I do the Periscope live stream, so far there's been 5 people on them, and it's kind of just, but the same 5 people that are there are also here because they're just super hardcore fans. So it hasn't, because they're already here, it hasn't been it just kind of seems like more extra work for nothing, but since they're already here in this chat. But I might start doing Periscope as well. So I'm gonna troubleshoot this. We're gonna get it figured out. That way, as many people, because everybody understands these different platforms differently, and so I want to be able to make sure that people can get on and see stuff when I'm live, so that they can get the support and the questions and the for sure the chat on the side, because that I think is just absolutely huge for people when they want to get it right. So let's see. Bill is here. Hi, Bill. Yeah, S9 says, Dana, he used to do YouTube and Google Plus at the same time, but he has trouble with it too. Yeah, Richard, Spartan Life Coach guy, and we were talking about that last night. I was telling him, I said, I can do this live stream, but I must forewarn you that technology and I have a very tense relationship. And we were kind of laughing about all the issues we were having with the different live streams. And so I don't think he fully understands like how bad like how much of a train wreck it is every single week with me and technology. So we'll see. I told him I would sign on early tomorrow night so we could see about just troubleshooting as much stuff ahead of time as possible. Okay, that's good to know. Stephanie says you can still watch it like it's a live stream on your YouTube. Just subscribe to Spartan Life Coach channel and it'll pop up in your subscriptions window tomorrow. So yeah, so what's going to happen is after we do um the live stream, then I will have um he's going to send me the link to the video for it. So I'll post it on my YouTube channel as well, but it probably won't be posted until either late, probably realistically like Friday, because he's I think 5 or 6 hours ahead of me, and it's going to be really late for him when we're doing this. So either way, you can for sure subscribe to his channel, but you'll also be able to get it through mine as well. So let's see. Adrian says, Dana, when I get Lisa or Melanie to have a live stream with you, how can I contact you? Well, Adrian, I see you all the time. So I don't know why you're asking that. Uh, Instagram, you can message me on Instagram, and I get all your messages there, and that's probably the best way for to contact me. I don't check my YouTube messages anymore, and yeah, or my Facebook page because it's there's just too many. I can't even keep up with them all. So Carolyn says, I wanted to thank you for your 7 lies of a narcissist video forced me out of denial. Do you know if there's any research about oxytocin and trauma bonding? Um, I don't know if there's necessarily any. That's a really great question. I don't know if there's any research as far as oxytocin and trauma bonding. There's definitely research with oxytocin and just bonding. It's a bonding hormone. Um, so my guess would be, and maybe even dopamine too, where, excuse me, it's the whole when you're on this roller coaster ride, the lows are really low, but the highs are really high. And my guess is in part those highs are really high because you've got oxytocin and dopamine and these other chemicals that are being released because it's such a relief when a person stops doing the silent treatment or they start being really kind and sweet and over the top nice again. So that yeah, I'm sure that there is definitely a correlation there. And I'm really glad that that video helped you so much. Um, that's awesome. Adrian says, Dana, I can go to YouTube next Wednesday. How can they contact you? Instagram too? Um, if you go to my website, narcissistsupport.com, if you look under the tab Contact Me, it has um, an email address up there. I'll have to double check it. And it's basically for, um, anything like that, for like business, if for people that are trying to get a hold of me for like speaking or YouTube or, um, you know, all that. So you can contact me through that way too, for stuff like this. And um, but yeah, I was just saying you could message me on Instagram since I see you there like every day. But you know, if I guess if we're gonna be on the up and up and we're gonna get professional about this, we can actually use that professional email that I set up. So Trisha says, yeah, the last psychologist I went to was great. He was the first one who got it. Like you said, it made a world of difference. Yes, it really, really does make a world of difference. And there are so many out there that and it's so sad because they think that they're familiar with abuse and they're not, like, at all. And it makes me want to just pull my hair out because they're re-victimizing people right and left. And like that stuff needs to stop. And it I don't know what the solution is, really, on how to do better, like, re-education on all of this, but there definitely needs to be like major work done because I see it day in and day out, where there's a lot of like really well-intended people out there running around like re-victimizing others because they don't know what they're talking about. So let me scroll up. S9 said maybe the Facebook page would be better to watch the live stream. Yeah, and I don't know. I still need to figure out how to live stream through Facebook. There's kind of a process through it, like, because it's a business page, or it's considered a business page. Um, I have to show, like, I have to have something in my, like, quote unquote business's name, like a utility bill or a business license or something. And I didn't start all of this off to be a business. So, like, I don't have those things. So, I need to go get those things so then I can scan them in and then show Facebook. And then Facebook can say, okay, this page really does belong to narcissist support, and then go from there. So, that's, a little down the road. But that's the plan. Oh wow, Adrian is gonna go gangbusters on lining up people for me to go do collaborations with. He says Lisa Romano, Melanie Tanya Evans, Susan Anderson, Ross Rosenberg, Self Haven, and more are available for you. Yes. Okay, in all fairness, Ross Rosenberg was reached out to me a while back, like 9 months ago maybe, and wanted to do a joint video like this. And it was right when my channel first started. Yeah, it was probably about, maybe, yeah, 2 or 3 months into my channel starting. And my channel took off so fast that I could not keep up with any of it. Like, my email, my inbox. I mean, like I said, I started this channel with the intention of really just sharing kind of my lessons learned, and I didn't really think a whole lot of people were going to be watching. And so, anyways, long story short, so Ross had emailed me. He was wanting to do a collaborative video. Um, I was so disorganized at that point. I still struggle with it for sure, but I really struggled with it at that point. Anyways, long story short, he kept emailing me. I kept losing the emails, and I'm sure he thinks I'm a complete flake. So, like, got back to him a while back, and I think, he at that point was like, this lady does not know what she's doing. And I didn't. In all fairness, he was absolutely right, because at that point I did not know what I was doing, and I was so incredibly overwhelmed with just all of it, like the emails, and then the privacy issues, and how to just all of it. It was incredibly overwhelming. So so yes, I would love to do a collaborative video with them, but I might have to do some major, and I probably should do some major apologizing, because I it was a hot mess back then. So interesting. Oh, I want to, let's see. Interesting. So Blessed Butterfly says the first two therapists I had got to the point where they kept telling me to quit deflecting the issues back on my ex. Ah, LOL. I'm like, he is the only one I've had issues like this with. And then she was saying, I went to the third therapist with the attitude that I think I'm codependent and I've attracted a narcissist and I'm suffering from PTSD. So, yeah, and that's probably why you're finding perhaps like more benefit from this third therapist because a lot, and here's the thing, so like a lot of therapists, and I get it, I totally get where they're coming from, they really want to focus on things that we can change, right? Like, makes total sense. We don't have power and control over the narcissist, so all we can ever do in therapy is vent about them, right? But it's not, and when we first go through a situation like this, our focus is on us being victimized because we've probably, if we've never encountered anything like this, it's like a hit and run. Like, we don't know what happened. We're not linking up that maybe this had stuff to do with our past. Maybe there was other stuff going on. We just know what happened in this relationship that was incredibly painful. We feel used and abused because we were, right? And so, you know, a therapist can't really do a whole lot with that other than just listen. And so their goal, a lot of their goals, is to get us to be introspective and to see our part in it. But there's a certain, that takes time, and there's a certain level of there's a certain time and place for that. And I think it's really, really, really important for victims that have gone through this to just feel validated and to just talk about and feel heard and talk about what they went through and just vent and just have somebody listen and not try to push them to move too fast because it takes time. I mean, I went into therapy. I'd like to consider myself to be really open-minded. I'm all about accountability, and and again, like, I had training. I had tons of training in domestic violence and emotional abuse and all of this. I still did not see my part in things. And it wasn't until, like, actually pretty, like, fairly recently, it was after I started my channel, that I really began to see the fuller picture and to realize, oh, okay, no, this is, this has kind of been an ongoing thing with boundaries and standards for me. They weren't awful. My boundaries and standards weren't awful. And I think that's what kept me so confused for so long, because my boundaries with Steve and Jack weren't really that bad. I mean, I glossed over some red flags, but those relationships didn't have the highs and lows that a lot of people have. So I didn't piece it together. There was no going back and forth. I found out about the double lives with both of them, and I was done. So I was really, really, really confused. The big aha moments for me have been in learning to go with my intuition, learning to trust my gut, learning having healthy boundaries and standards, what that means, and that is an ongoing evolution, understanding. Now, I had been in relationships before, and actually, I had more unhealthy boundaries and standards and much more of that emotional abuse, problematic dynamics with friends than I did so with boyfriends, interestingly enough. So I put up with a lot more crap from my quote unquote friends than I did with men. So but again, like, it's the same kind of issues. It was just to different degrees in different parts of my life. And I think a lot of people have that. It can just take, we're all blind to certain parts of our personality. Like, we all have that. And so it can just take time to really turn inward and to do some really harsh self-examination, because just like the narcissists don't think that they have a problem, a lot of codependent people don't think that they have a problem either, you know In our mind, it's like, well, no, I didn't have a problem. Like, my ex was the problem. And it's like, yeah, your ex definitely was like the problem and had a big part. His behavior, her behavior was incredibly problematic. But then that doesn't mean that there's not like unresolved stuff going on with us. And so it's always like, always, right? Like at any given time, it's always worth kind of examining that. And of course, we can all pick and choose kind of if there's validity in that. Like, if a therapist or somebody says, well, I think that you might have this issue, like you may or may not have that, but it's worth, like, I guess, try to not cheat yourself out of personal growth if you can, and stay open minded to the fact that they're like I said, we all have these blind spots in our behavior, and to at least entertain the possibility of what somebody else is saying. But again, it's really, really difficult. I have found, for me personally, and I think for a lot of people, a ton of clarity comes from support groups, because I think it's like anything else in life, right? Like it's a lot easier to see other people's issues, and because we all have the same issues, like we're all telling different versions of the same story pretty much. And so if you get into a support group and you're hearing the stories from other people, you're probably going to be seeing a lot of what's going on with you reflecting back at you. And then it's sort of like, oh wow, okay. So like what somebody had mentioned earlier about my 7 lies of a narcissist video, like that woke them up out of denial. It might have taken them a long time in therapy to get to that place where they would have had that aha moment, because they're having to get past that barrier of just focusing on their partner. They'd have to turn inward and realize that they are in denial, and that's hard. That's hard to do, because if you're in denial, you're in denial, right? But hearing somebody else's story, hearing it come from somebody else, there isn't that cognitive dissonance there. And so it's just easier to like link things up. So yeah, interesting stuff. Yeah, Blessed Butterfly says, I think my codependency issues actually attracted my ex. I'm not saying I deserved in no way to be treated in the manner I was, but I want to work on my codependency issues for myself. Yes, I um hold on a second. Ugh, this delays. So, okay, so let's get, okay, your codependency issues attracted your ex. So, in part, I'm sure that they did. But the bigger issue, again, going back to like, what do we have control over? Another person, we don't really have control over whether or not other people are going to be attracted to us. Because, and I joke about this all the time, like, we've all attracted like everybody from like hobos to CEOs, right? Like, we attract the range. And so, you're going to attract other people that are codependent. You're going to attract people that are like flat out sociopaths. And it's not so much necessarily who we attract, it's who we're attracted to and who we keep in our lives. Because that's where our power and control comes in, right? That's when we can say, I'm really attracted to this person, but they've got problematic behavior, and either I need to address it or I need to get out of here, right? So yeah, those codependency issues, if we're comfortable in that dynamic, if we're comfortable, and when I say codependency, I'm kind of talking about these one-sided relationships where we are basically sinking ourselves to save somebody else, right? So we need to feel needed, or we're needy, right? So we're clinging on to them, or you know, we're needing to feel needed. So here's an example in my life. Here's something like a recent aha moment that I have learned. Hold on a second. There's stuff going on in the chat here. Oh my gosh, I'm ready to throw my computer out the frickin' window. There's a delay and it's going slow and it's frustrating. So, yeah, Doug is doing his best to help moderate. And he says there's a lag on this and he's trying to deal with it as fast as he can. Adrian, I just made you a moderator as well. And music, I'm making you a moderator as well. So hopefully that'll help with things. So, okay. So here is an aha moment I had the past week, maybe, about some of my codependency issues, and it's and I keep, I mean, I'm still having all of these realizations, and it's just amazing. Like once they start, they snowball because it just keeps growing and growing. But so when I was married, my ex-husband is military, and he was gone all the time. And he was a very good man. He still is a very good man. And I really, like, it's so crazy, like hindsight being what it is. I look back on that relationship and I really think that I went into it thinking that I had to earn his love. And so I just bent over backwards trying to be good to him, trying to be his personal assistant. I mean, whatever. And he was deployed all the time. So I was running around, mailing packages, and we had a bunch of rental properties. And I was handling everything myself. And it was too much. And I burned myself out big time. And so I was creating this like really unhealthy dynamic where that was me. That was like 100% me needing to feel needed. And that marriage would have never worked because of that within me. You know, had I had better boundaries, I could have said, "Hey, you know what? I can't. Like, this isn't working for me. Like, I need to do something else." And he would have been fine with it. Like, that's the kicker. Like, he would have been fine with that. I was the one that was burning myself out. I was the one that was choosing to run around. I was the one that was feeling like I needed to earn his love. And none of that was true. That was all in my mind. So that was a big aha moment for me. Here's another example. So I had a friend when I first moved to Michigan, and she, really nice gal. She, kind of long story short, needed a place to stay. I had a dog, and I was gone all the time for work, and she was gonna watch my dog in lieu of paying rent. Well, she moved in. She was with me for about a year and a half, and again, I act not consciously, but very much subconsciously, set that relationship up to fail. So I became bitter and resentful because she wasn't paying for anything. Like I felt like her mom or like her older sister. I was paying for everything. And even, but again, this was 100% my fault because even if she offered to pay for half of utilities or whatever, I wouldn't let her. And so I just built up this resentment to it got to the place where I was like, you've got to move out. Like you got to go. And, but it wasn't, it again, like it wasn't her, it was me. And so realizing that, which was so crazy, that not only did I find myself getting like with my codependency issues, did I find myself being attracted and attracting problematic people that were going to just flat out use me. I was also setting myself up to be used. And then I was getting resentful if like people didn't want to use me. I mean, it was nuts. Like that's nuts. But but it's one of those things like once now that I know better, like now that I get it. And that ends now. Like that won't be happening again. So I don't know. It's cool. Like I'm excited for this codependency series because I really feel like that for sure was the missing piece for me, with examining my own boundaries and standards and how that came into play and kind of why I was doing what I was doing and just some examples of it because I'd heard the word before and I understood a little bit about the concept. My mom was big into codependency groups when I was a teenager and things like that, but I didn't piece it together. Like in my mind, I thought a codependent person was a total doormat. I did not see myself as a total doormat. So it just, again, we all have blind spots to our personality. And I saw myself as very easygoing. I saw myself as very, go with the flow. And, um, you know, I'm big into Buddhism. So I think a lot of kind of my boundary issues and stuff were hidden within Buddhism, if that makes sense. Because I'm a big fan of just detaching, which is great, but in a weird codependent mind, it was an excuse to not deal with things. It was like an excuse to stay really passive, even though, again, like none of this was conscious at the time. I did not see this for a really long time. So, um, yeah, so maybe that'll help to give somebody else some clarity. Because again, so I have, like I was mentioning, I have this friend at work who we all of our conversations have been about like codependency and boundaries and standards, because she's having a lot of these aha moments too, and we just have the best conversations, and it's so helpful to hear from somebody else, for them to say, oh my God, I just realized this is how I've been settling for crumbs in my life. And this is what I've been doing. And I think this is why I was doing it. And isn't it so nuts that, I've been kind of doing XYZ, and just fully realizing that, um, and it's gonna be like, as you further get into that, peeling back the layers, and just really seeing how many, kind of unintentional, of course, but like self-sabotaging behaviors we have. And here's the thing, the hard thing with codependency too is a lot of these behaviors seem like really good ones, right? Like it seems like a really great trait to put other people first, or to be kind or considerate or compassionate. And that's true to an extent. But if we're sinking ourselves to, save somebody else, that's not healthy. Like that's problematic. But our whole society is either rewards codependency or it rewards narcissism. If you look at all of like the crazy messages that we get on, from movies and all kinds of things, it's all just ridiculous behavior that's role modeled. It's either crazy narcissistic or it's crazy codependent. And no wonder. Like it's amazing that anybody has a functional relationship. Like, you know so Doug is on it. He is banning people right and left. Go, Doug. Trisha says, Butterfly, I think there are times when narcissists can be self deprecating, but most of the time they are arrogant. Yes. And when they are, the whole self deprecating thing, and their fault finding within themselves, it's oftentimes, um, just to get compliments. So, like, I don't know. And I think a lot of them do have really low self-esteem, because people that have healthy self-esteem don't treat other people like the way that they treat us. So Ethan says, do you think that abusers get better with age, with less opportunity for supply, or do you find it to be more progressive, they get worse, like alcoholism? uh, I think 9 out of 10 times they get worse with age, because um, they get they get they get more comfortable in their dynamic, and so their behavior tends to escalate. And often that dynamic has grown to the point where if their target has stayed, then their target expects less and less and puts up with more and more. And so they know that maybe 20 years ago they could not have gotten away with, beating him or her up, but now they can. So, you know, yeah, I have known. I had actually a friend of mine whose mother just recently died of cancer. Her mother was a narcissist and was horrid. And I mean, awful, 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 physical, emotional, psychological, I think maybe even some sexual abuse when she was a child. And um, had gone no contact with her mother as an adult. And then her mom developed cancer, and my friend felt obligated to take care of her mother, thinking, well, her mother was in her 70s, 80s, and that she had to have been like, mellowed out. And plus, she was dying of cancer. So you think she would be kind, and especially because my friend was taking her in and going to be taking care of her till she died. That lasted, I think, 3 weeks. And my friend was like, she's a crazy, hateful, evil woman. And she felt awful. She's like, my mom is dying of cancer and she is just cruel, and that she couldn't do it, and had to have her mom go stay with another sibling. So that's just an example. Like, it just, I think when people tend to stick around and they think, well, that they've got to get better, it's still that fantasy. Even if they know better, it's still that fantasy. So let me scroll up here. Yes, Adrienne says, I did a lot of acting as the parent of my mother's emotions instead of the other way around. Now I realize I was always in friendships or relationships where I was people pleasing, without my emotional needs being met with myself first. At times, I would feel guilty accept help from anyone because I would feel guilty accepting help from anyone because I wasn't comfortable with it. Yeah, so I think that is a great like warning sign for us, right? So if we're finding ourselves in these unequal, one-sided dynamics where we are playing the role of a parent, a therapist, a nurse, a teacher, a you know, kind of, it's not a peer-to-peer dynamic, right? It's very like very unequal dynamic. There's something going on there, and it's not healthy. Um, And yeah, I think a lot of us are uncomfortable asking for help, or uncomfortable it being a peer to peer relationship. We might not have ever had that. I mean, I look back at, and I think a lot of people have this. If you look back at a lot of the significant friendships and relationships in your life, my guess is a lot of them have been with emotionally abusive people, and that's not a coincidence. Um, that was really eye opening for me. I just did not make the connection. I mean, I had a really horribly emotionally abusive relationship with a guy in high school. My best friend when I was in junior high and high school was emotionally abusive. She was freaking nuts, probably the worst one. Um, and then Jack and Steve. And I just kind of thought that they were all flukes, because they were decades apart. So I didn't see the connection. But that's the thing with poor boundaries, because you're letting everybody in. It's really a crapshoot. Like, you could wind up with a decent person. You could wind up with a serial killer. Like, if we don't have boundaries, if we're not being able to effectively discern who comes into our life, then it's just a huge gamble. So, um, what? Through the Looking Glass says, Dana, I have a question. What could I do or say to my psychologist who, on the first session, told me that I shouldn't talk about my past and my abuse? Um, that's really strange. On your first session? Um, I guess I would ask what the rationale is. Um, I think a lot of them, psychologists and other forms of therapists, want to talk about the present moment, what we can do from this point forward. But again, like, I'm a big believer in that part of our healing is feeling validated and getting that out of our system and telling somebody else, like, this is what happened to us, and feeling believed and feeling supported. So I guess if you're not feeling supported with your psychologist, then I would encourage you to find a different one, because it's like finding any professional out there. Like, it takes a little while to find a good fit. So it's all about you. Like, this is about you. You're paying. So If you want to spend 10 sessions talking about what happened to you, then I'd let them know up front, like, this is what I want to do. And then I'm open to discussing something else, or however many sessions you want to spend focused on whatever. Like, you're paying them. And, being validated is a huge, huge, huge thing. And a lot of victims, I think, tend to not stick with therapy for that reason because they don't feel validated. Um, Again, support groups are a fantastic way to get validated because other people have been there, done that. So, you know, that's what I would encourage you to think about. It sounds like that psychologist is not familiar with emotional abuse, would be my guess. I mean, that's really wild. Most of them will at least give a person a few sessions because people go there to talk about issues. So I don't know why he like wouldn't want to hear what's going on. But go with your gut. You know your situation best. You know what you need. And if you're not getting it from that person, then it's okay. It's okay to go find somebody else. So let's see. Ethan says, "Has anybody else heard of the emotional refractory period? I recently was watching my computer. I was recently watching a video on sociopaths, and it was talking about how sociopaths go from being sad to mad to happy within the blink of an eye. Has anyone else experienced this with an abuser?" The two sociopaths, like, I would say that Jack and Steve were more on the sociopathic end of the spectrum because they like, narcissists tend to be a lot more reactive, um, where sociopaths don't. Like, they are more conniving and kind of they lay out a web of stuff. Um, yeah, did they experience a wide range of emotions quickly? Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Generally, they were pretty calm. But see, the thing is, though, their emotions aren't real. Like, emotional abusers in general tend to have very shallow, superficial emotions. So they go very quickly from that. That's why it's no big deal for them to be like, "Well, I love you," or "I hate you," or they're impulsive like children. Like, their emotions are just they're very superficial. So when they say "I love you," it's sort of like the equivalent of me saying, like, "I really like my cell phone. Like, I love my cell phone," right? So, like, if my cell phone broke, I would be sad, but I would get over it pretty quickly because I could go to the store tomorrow and get another one, right? Like, that's kind of how they are with people. Like, they don't attach. They really, really don't attach. So, um, in their emotions, especially with sadness and remorse, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but a lot of times it's fake. So it's really, really crazy to see an adult person fake cry. Again, it's like a little kid. And it's really, just like with a little kid, it's really obvious. It's that, it's fake crying. It's the, like, wiping their eyes. And, it's like it's an act. It's all an act. It's just ridiculous. And so, um, you know, it's like, none of it's real. Like, none of it's real. G3 Brenda says, "My ex and I would be in the middle of a big argument, and he would calmly turn to me and ask what we should make for dinner." Yeah, like that kind of stuff. It's super superficial emotions, and they get over stuff quickly because it's not a big deal for them. Adrienne says, "Mine was like an Oscar award winner." Yep. Oh, yay. Corvette says, "I wanted to say thank you for your videos. I broke up with my narc girlfriend and never looked back. Now I'm rebuilding myself like the $6 million man." That is awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. So, yay, you. Yay, you. Um, let's see. Music says, mine used to throw himself on the bed and bury his head in the pillows like a child. Yes. Um, I, who was I talking to the other day? I was talking to, maybe it was the live stream, but I don't think it was. I don't know. I was talking about Jack and how he had told me that he had been in the military and this like top. It sounds like it's so ridiculous, like saying it out loud. But he told me that he'd been in this like top secret, super secret sniper unit, and he was ashamed of the things that he had done, and he would periodically break down and sob. And then I realized as I think I must have been typing it. As I was saying it, I realized, well, wait, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I ever saw him cry. I think I thought I saw him go like, like this, like act like he was crying, and his voice was cracking up, and it was all of the motions of sadness and intensity. But I, now that I'm looking back on it, I'm not sure if he actually was seriously crying. I just assumed that he was because, again, like normal people would not assume that somebody would be lying about something like that. I mean, it was so bizarre. Like there was no reason for it, but that I could see. But I think, again, hindsight being what it is, I think he was doing that as just a weird little cheap shot at getting power and control over me, just to see how much I would fall for, like just to see how, in his mind, how gullible I was. But like, again, I mean, you just have to. Why would people make up stuff like that? I don't know. Ridiculous. Lawrence, oh, these boxes, these warning things keep popping up over the chat. Let's see. Lauren says, "Do you so what do you guys do when you feel really depressed and you know you need to get out of yourself a bit and get out and do things you enjoy, but you just have no energy?" For me, I would force myself. There were many days in the beginning where I would tell myself, um, I would give myself orders, and I would say, "Okay, Dana, we're getting out of bed and we're gonna go shower. Like, get out of bed. Get your right foot out of bed, left foot out of bed. Go march your body into the shower." And it was bad. Like those days were really, really, really bad. I think just making it a point to get out of the house every single day and um, to be around other people, even if it's just a coffee shop, can really do a lot for mood. And ideally, exercise. If you, I know you don't have energy, and but forcing yourself to do it anyhow. Um, it doesn't have to be long. It could be like a 10-minute walk. It could be going to the gym for 10 minutes. Just something is better than nothing, and it really, really does help. Milt says, "Yeah, Lauren, movement, sunlight, hydration, those are all huge things. Finding, ways to just nourish yourself." Trisha's mentioning bubble bath, um, you know, eating a really nourishing meal, like a big, healthy, amazing salad. Things like that. And I know it sounds really like trite, right? I get it. Like I've struggled with depression for many, many, many years. So I get how minimizing maybe what I'm saying sounds, and that's not what I mean at all. I guess what I'm saying is there is no like one thing. Like there's no one big quick fix for depression. It tends to be like a lot of little things. So it's a has to do with diet and getting out in the sun and talk and reaching out and talking to other people, and realizing too that it's okay to feel depressed. I mean, that's part of it, and that's very normal through all of this. But just not letting yourself stay there. So maybe telling yourself, okay, you know what? Like if you don't want to do anything for the next hour, then that's okay. But then after that, then we're gonna go do something. Like we're gonna go to a movie. That's another thing you can do is even putting on a comedy. I listened to a lot of stand-up comedy back then, and that really helped. So there's tons of stand-up comedy stuff on YouTube, and it's amazing how quickly that can help change a person's state, and it can help change what you're focusing on and what you're thinking about. And then too, like paying attention to what you are thinking about. And if you're kind of ruminating on things, or Are you watching the news? Are you watching stuff that's really heavy? Are you watching Lifetime TV movies? Like, don't do that. Like, watch stuff, fill your brain up with stuff that'll give your brain a break. So, like comedy or relaxation videos. Again, there's tons of like relaxation videos and guided imagery and stuff on YouTube too that can help. Tapping, yeah, people are talking about the EFT, the emotional freedom technique. There's videos on YouTube as well for EFT and how to do it. It takes about not even 5 minutes to learn how to do it. It's really quick. It's foolproof. It's it's a series of different statements that you're making as you're tapping like different meridians. It's very, very powerful. So Martine is here. Welcome. We are having technical issues, Martine, again. So just so you know. I'm sorry. Yeah, Through the Looking Glass says, getting cats has really helped my healing so much. My cat is my relaxation guru. Oh, how cute. She comes and joins in when I'm doing yoga. Yeah, animals are awesome. They are the best invention ever. Like, they can really, really help with mood. And so let me scroll up here. Let's see. Oh, Margaret is saying, yeah, I find myself looking at their Facebook page and then I backslide and I get really depressed again. I really need to stop looking at Facebook pages. Yes, for sure. For sure. It's, um, yeah, really painful. In trying to just slow that down, I think, a lot of people go through that. I did it too a little bit. Um, so it's just trying to remind yourself like there's nothing good that can come from that. Like there is nothing good that can come from looking at your ex's anything on social media. And to just realize that, like, you know, what are we expecting to find there? It's either going to have pictures, we're either going to have our feelings hurt or we're going to start missing them. Like either way, it's a lose-lose situation. So we're better off just driving on and not getting tangled up in it. But yeah, easier said than done. I get it. I get it. Let me. Yes, I like that. Adrian says it helps a lot if you reaccommodate all of your furniture. Yeah, I'm a big believer in like the kind of the whole like feng shui of it all. And um yeah, I think there's a lot to be said with just kind of changing the energy in a room and changing our relationship with that energy. I know that sounds super hippie woo woo, but I really do think that there is a lot to that. Um, so let me. Adrienne says, I've been working on making my room super comfy, like a nice zen place for myself. I got a new comforter, lots of candles. Make sure I pick up my mess in there every night. I hang up my clothes. I have plants and candles. Yeah, stuff like that. It's it's awesome. It's a great way to just treat ourselves with value. And yeah, and just paying attention to how you feel, right? I mean, it sounds so obvious, like just doing more of what feels good. And it's stuff I still struggle with. Um, and it's weird. I don't know why, like, why is that not kind of our obvious default? I don't know, but um, life does tend to go a lot smoother when we do more of what feels good and we stay away from people, places, and things that make us feel bad. So here's another thing I have been doing too. So getting rid of clutter and getting rid of stuff that doesn't serve me anymore. So, and I have moved a lot since my divorce, like probably 5 times. And I've only been divorced for like 7 years now. So I've been moving a lot. I've been in a total scramble ever since I got a divorce, really. And I've been going through all of my stuff on a fairly regular basis. Like every time I move, I go through a bunch of stuff, I get rid of a bunch of stuff. And it's really crazy because when you start, and I think you'll find this too, like when you start going through it, you'll realize, wow, why am I hanging on to this? And like, how do I feel about certain clothes or furniture or what have you? And realizing that these different things have different memories associated with them. And asking yourself, like, do I have things in my environment that I have all of, a lot of negative associations with? And if you do, consider donating them, and just kind of, again, like freeing up that energy and filling your space with things that feel nourishing. So, True Love says, "Hello, I'm coming here late tonight. Question for you about a new conversation I had with somebody with online dating." Okay, go for it. Online dating. That's always always entertaining, isn't it? So, let's see what you got. Okay. Let me scroll up. True Love says, "I had an amazing conversation with this man on Monday night. He texted me today and asked if we can speak again tonight for 7 p.m. We ended up texting much later, and he said he fell asleep. Wait, hold on a second. Wait, we ended up texting much later, and now he wants to play it by ear. Hmm. So, okay, so it sounds like I'm not sure if I fully understand what happened. So you guys were talking, you ended up talking a lot, and then all of a sudden he kind of dropped off the planet and he's saying that he wants to play it by ear. Um, am I understanding that correctly? Lisa is saying, after I threw my narcissist out, I scrubbed everything super clean. I didn't even want to find one of his hairs laying around. I wanted him completely gone. Not even his DNA in my home was okay. Yeah, I did the same thing. I like cleaned my house. I rearranged furniture. I cut and colored my hair. I just wanted a total change of everything, for the same reason. It's very therapeutic. There's, a lot of like healing that can happen just from making some changes like that. So let me. So okay, oh, gosh, this chat. True Love says he said he forgot to call as he passed out on the couch. Is this a warning sign, a red flag, strike one? Trisha says if it's just a one-time incident, time will tell. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, if he texted you back and said he's sorry that, you know, um, that he didn't text you or whatever at a certain time. Yeah, I mean, things can happen. I you might kind of just want to reel it back. Online dating is so dicey. It just really, really is. So, if I were you, I would just make sure that you're not getting emotionally invested in a person that you don't know. Because I think that's a very common thing that a lot of us do. So, just kind of realizing you guys may have had this amazing connection, but you really don't know this person, and it's very easy for people to establish a fake connection over the phone or over text. So you guys really need to meet. If you're because it is easy, I think, for a lot of us to very quickly develop an emotional bond that's not there, that or it really shouldn't be there because it's too premature, to try to limit how much time you're spending texting or talking to him. So really, like, 10 minutes. I mean, keeping it brief. Like, the whole goal needs to be able that you guys need to meet soon, and meet for like coffee. Just something quick. And then when you meet for coffee, for like 45 minutes, you know? Because again, this is about guarding your time and guarding your emotions. This isn't about playing games. This is about knowing, if especially if you're like a lot of us, where it's we tend to have these artificial deep bonds quickly with people, knowing that about yourself, and then moving slowly enough to where that doesn't happen. And you're going to get a better feel for this guy once you actually meet in person. And again, keeping it short. But there's a lot of problematic people on online dating. So, oh, this thing is freezing up still. Okay, True Love says, I told him I get it, and that was a long day for me too, that I had plans tomorrow night, which I do. Then he said he did too. We said maybe we chat Friday, his words, and then he said we'll stay in touch. So, yeah, that sounds good. Um, just keep it casual because that's what it is, right? Like, this is just casual. This you don't know this guy. He could be, I mean, and it's so common to meet somebody in person and you realize, wow, they are not who I thought they were, or they're not who they presented themselves to be at all. So to just really kind of reel your emotions back, and just go slow. Like, just go slow. If this is a good thing, if it is a sincere thing, if it's a right thing, it will be there. Like, it'll be there in a month from now, it'll be there in a year from now. Like, there's no reason to be in any type of rush. Give yourself a chance to truly know this person. So, and realize too, if he doesn't call and if he doesn't get back to you, there is a very solid chance that it has nothing to do with you. Because again, like, a lot of people with online dating, they're possibly married or in a relationship, or they are dating multiple people, or like, I mean, who knows? Who knows? There's too many variables at play. But it's if we're already feeling kind of fragile, and I'm not saying that this is how you're feeling, but I think a lot of people do this. They get out of these bad relationships with a narcissist, and then they tend to very quickly want to get into another relationship to kind of fill that void. And then, but they haven't healed, and they're still, like, incredibly emotionally fragile. And so if they meet somebody new, they kind of put all of their hopes and dreams on this new person. And that's, well, for starters, it's like a lot to put on a new person. But then the odds of them actually being like the perfect person for you right away is like really, really slim, right? I mean, because there's a lot of, like, healing and stuff we have to do, and self-realization, and there's just a lot of stuff that we have to do to actually get to a healthy place after a relationship like this. So, um, you know, if he doesn't call or something's going on, there's just try not to take it personally, because who knows, like, who knows what's really going on there. So I like the fact that you've got plans. I like the fact that you're going out, and you're still having your life, and have this, whatever becomes of this, or any relationship that you for sure have online, have it go at a pace that you're comfortable with. Like, it doesn't have to go at his pace. Like, it can go at your, and it should go at your pace, right? So, not just because you're the woman, but just in general. Like, none of us should be, male or female, should be moving at a pace that we're not okay with. So it's really, really important that you do what feels right for you, and reel it back if it doesn't feel okay. So let me scroll up. And again, too, with the online dating, um, because there are so many problematic people there, online dating, that they're generally there. The problematic people are generally there for sex, and so a great way to kind of weed them out is to not have sex with them, and to make that very clear up front that you're looking for a real relationship, and that you're not looking to have sex with anybody for at least X number of months. And the people that are just looking for sex will be out of there, because they're not going to want to spend that time. They're going to go try to find somebody that they can have sex with a lot quicker. And of course, if that's what they are looking for, they're going to continue to try to talk you into it. And if they're a narcissist or a sociopath, they're really going to do that future faking super heavy, and they're going to be telling you everything that you want to hear, and they're going to establish that soulmate connection until they can get what they want out of a person. And then they're, you know, ideally, hopefully, then they're gone, right? Or worst case scenario, you get tangled up in a relationship that lasts, and they will, they'll use a person for as long as they possibly can. So, um, like, it just, I don't know. It's important to just go slow. Go with your gut. Go with your gut. Okay, let's see. Let me scroll up a little bit. Yeah, that's a great point. Hey, Lavender Curls is here and says, also, a narcissist's body is a trash can. Some are mindful of their bodies, but you must be careful. They don't always value themselves, and most times don't have emotional maturity. Yeah, a lot of times they don't value them. It's not even that they don't value themselves. It's like they just don't think ahead. So they don't think to wear a condom. They live in the moment. It's STDs and stuff like that, and unplanned pregnancies are all very, very common for them. And um, but that's the thing. Like, if we value ourselves, then the people that don't value themselves, it's going to weed them out. Because if you have that boundary of, okay, if we're going to be dating, then this is what's going to happen. Like, we're going to move at my pace, and I am not going to have sex with anybody for at least 3 months. And during that 3 months, I'm going to be spending, or however long it is for you, during that time, I'm going to be getting to know that person really, really well, to make sure that they deserve, that they're, you know, my kind of person that I want to have an intimate relationship with, you know, and that they have value and respect for themselves, and that, um, that this relationship's going to the next level. That's my quality, that qualifications for somebody. So getting clear on, like, what exactly you're looking for, and then raising that bar and holding to it, and then deciding, okay, if we're going to be intimate, I mean, this is the year 2016, right? So using protection is important. Having your partner getting tested and then showing you the results is important. Narcissists and sociopaths generally will not do that, because they're impulsive, and they just, again, it's like dealing with teenagers, impulsive teenagers. I don't even want to say teenagers, because it makes teenagers look bad. True Love says, actually, I did find it odd that he wrote to me before we ever spoke that if I wanted to *67 my phone number for privacy, I could. So, well, that's good. I mean, um, you know, that shows respect, and I think people, again, like it's the internet, and people know that people are kind of freaked out about giving out information and that kind of stuff. And if you're going to go, obviously, if you're going to go date somebody that you meet on the internet, having them not pick you up at your house, having, meeting them for coffee, not letting them know where you live, um, just, it's not about not trusting people. It's about just being, it's about being careful. And because it's the year 2016. So people understand that. Like online people nowadays understand that. Linda says, do you think people who have attracted a narcissist tend to have a past of dealing with a parent or family member that's a narcissist? Yes, I think a lot of people, by and large, who date or have a relationship with a narcissist tend to have a parent that's a narcissist. So, um, because a lot of healthy, balanced people, when they start experiencing that behavior, they tend to be out of there. Like they don't stick around for the devaluing part of it, the name calling, the insults, the subtle put downs. They're able to see it as problematic a lot sooner, and they tend to be out of there a lot sooner. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. Um, and so I think for those of us that have grown up with some narcissism, with parents, with selfish parents, and um, that kind of red flag behavior doesn't register as big of a deal as it should. It's sort of like people that tend to grow up in homes where they have a parent who's an alcoholic. They tend to marry alcoholics, and I think it's the same thing. It's just it might not register to them that that person, you know, um, is an alcoholic, where like if they're out at a on a date and that person has, let's say, and I know that alcoholism doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the quantity of alcohol a person's drinking, but just for the sake of the example, if a person, is out on a date and this and they, knock back 5 drinks to a person, like for me that would be red flag. Like I would be on high alert, proceeding with caution if I saw something like that. That even might even be a deal breaker, frankly, for me. But because that's not, again, like it's contextual, right? But to somebody who grew up in an alcoholic home, that may or may not be, that might not register as problematic. And it tends to kind of go one of two ways, right? So like if a person grew up in an alcoholic home and they knew, like they had that clarity of, I don't want anything to do with alcohol. Like I know people that have grown up in alcoholic homes and they don't even date people that drink. Like they don't even deal with that. So that would be absolute deal breaker stuff for them. But a lot of people, it's sort of like, well, they had 5 drinks. That's not that bad, because they're comparing it to their dad or their mom who would have 10. And so it's easy for them to kind of, it's like a slippery slope because problematic behavior doesn't register. So Valinda says, Dana, my narcissist did all of the devaluing behind my back, never to my face. Is that common? Mine did too. So sometimes yes and sometimes no. Um, it just kind of depends, I think, on the person and, um, what they're going, just kind of what their intentions are. Because they all have some sort of angle. So it's, it's hard to, it's hard to say. But yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know if that's really that common, to be honest with you, though. From all of the stories I've heard and the support groups and stuff, I think by and large the devalue stage. I mean, it's all I mean, okay. It's always also done behind the back, so keep that in mind. But it's not always done to the person's face, but it is always done in addition behind their back, because that's the whole smear campaign. So that's how they're able to line up the next source of supply. That's how they're able to justify their behavior. That's how they're able to convince everybody else that they are the innocent party in all of this. So, yeah, Through the Looking Glass says he was abusing me and out there telling everybody behind my back that I was a psychotic bitch. Yes. So that's another thing. It's really a good idea, and it's very interesting to listen to how people talk about their exes, because um, problematic people like that, they tend to project. So if there is, and of course, it's obviously not a foolproof thing, right? Because for anybody that were to listen to us talk about our exes, then they could say the same thing about us. Like, well, like, what if we're projecting? But I think by and large, it's a good idea to listen to how people describe their exes, and to listen for any kind of insight or accountability into the relationship, and kind of just to be on alert about all of that. So, because most narcissists are the perpetual victim in their mind. And again, it's because they don't have accountability, and they project all of their behavior onto the victim. So I think a lot of them really do feel like they truly are the victim because they project everything. So it's just a very strange dynamic. Perforant said, "Do narcissists challenge your sexual ability? She would spend 45 minutes saying that she wasn't sure that I would be able to satisfy her." Yes, I think that they tend to target what we are most sensitive about. So it might be, I could see for a man saying targeting sexual performance, or for a woman, it might be targeting how they look or their weight, or if they look old, or again, like what their genitals look like, or if their breasts are saggy, or whatever, or their parenting, or it could be their cooking. It could be, I mean, any little, like, their appearance, their clothes, how much money they make, what kind of car they drive. Anything that a person might be sensitive about is what narcissists tend to target. And they tend to target down the road, like once they know us better, things that are that we're most sensitive about. So if you're, let's say, like, if you work out all the time and you have a really nice body, they might still target that specifically because they know that it's something that you're sensitive about. So they just, yeah, yeah. So yes, they do. Martine says, as a result, I now feel paralyzed when I need to act, or I doubt myself when I see red flags. Thanks, mom and dad, for putting everyone else before me. Yeah, it's learning to trust our judgment and learning to kind of move past our those childhood wounds is really hard. But I think, you know, um, deep down, like, you really do know. You, and it takes practice trusting our judgment, and it's hard to walk away. It's hard to walk away, and I think in part because we'll never know if we're right. So if we meet this new fantastic person with all these red flags, we also have to make peace with the fact that we're never going to know if we were actually right about them. And that is can be difficult to do. But that kind of goes back to trying to keep this attitude of abundance, and realize, okay, this might have been a really great person. They did have red flags, because I know that they had red flags, because I can tell by the way that I feel. Because I don't have these feelings about, you know, a lot of other people, right? So think about somebody that you do trust and that you don't, and think about how you feel. So maybe a sibling or a friend, or maybe even somebody here on the chat, maybe even me. Think about, okay, well, what I think about this, do I feel this way about, whoever on the chat, right? Like, do they give me an uncomfortable vibe? Or do I wonder about this with them? And kind of using that as a gauge to determine whether, like, how you really feel, because it's man, that cognitive dissonance sets in so flippin' quick, and it can be really hard. And I have it too. I still struggle with it too when I'm in these kinds of situations. But thinking to yourself, okay, for me, my brother is kind of my go-to guy, like, because he's a guy, right? So I would think to myself, well, if I'm questioning a guy's behavior, I'm like, well, do I have trust issues? Do I have commitment issues? Is this just like guy behavior that I, am being hypersensitive about, what have you? But then I'll ask my brother, or I'll think about, like, how would he handle it? And if generally his reaction is going to be like my reaction. And if it is, then it's the thought of, okay, there's a problem here. So, um, you know, trusting your judgment and actually moving forward with it is really hard. So, yes, Peace Pom Pom says, I thank my body out loud now when it raises a red flag. Thank you, darling, I say. Yes. So, our we have these physical reactions to when things are a hell no, and when things are a hell yes. So my friend, at work. So today I was telling her, I said, it's the most interesting thing when I am feeling really on track about something. I can tell because I get goosebumps, and sometimes it's not even necessarily like full out goosebumps, but I'll get this like shiver that goes up my body, and it's just that little feeling of yes, yes, I like that. And and I'm learning. The more in touch I'm becoming with myself, the more I'm becoming more confident in those feelings. A lot of this just takes practice. It just takes practice, and learning to pay attention to how do you feel when something feels really off, and how do you feel. So remember we talked about before, like, on an emotional scale, or a scale of satisfaction, ranging from a 0 to 10. And 10 being absolutely, this jazzes you, it juices you, it would pull you out of bed in the morning, like you are excited about that. That would be a 10. A 5 would be like you're lukewarm, like, if meh, it's average. A 0 would be a hell no, it's ice cold, like no, 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 no. To start paying attention to how you feel with little things that you're not emotionally invested in, like your cell phone case, or like, your socks, or your couch, or kind of what have you, and start asking yourself, like, where on this emotional or the scale of satisfaction, how do I feel about these different things? And the more you start identifying, you're like, that's a 9, that's a 10, that's a 7, that's a 3, these kinds of things. The more in tune you get, the easier this becomes. And so when you get these situations in your life that are problematic, you're going to be more, you won't have to wonder as long. You're not going to get so tangled up in it, because you'll be able to realize, yep, that feels like a 2. You might not be able to pinpoint exactly why, and that takes practice too, and that'll just come with time. But you'll know that something's off, because you'll know that you've had that feeling before, and when you've had that feeling before, it was, and you'll be able to pinpoint it to something that you're not emotionally attached to. So it'll be a lot easier, um, to make a decision on how to move forward. So, Martine says, it's so hard to see my isolated life, like how I'm a really easygoing and social person and have always been, yet I have no friends left. Well, and I think that's a great point, and you're not alone in that. I think there's a lot of us. If we've got this real codependent streak within us, then odds are, there's probably a lot of different factors going on, right? So if we get in enough problematic relationships, there's a big cloud of depression that sets in. That, we want to isolate ourselves. We have a hard time trusting other people. So we may really want to have friends. We may really want to go out and have a good time, but we're having a hard time just kind of trusting and getting out there with other people and doing those things. Um, and it could be too, if you've got some codependency issues going on, that maybe the friends that you had before, this is again, like I struggled with this too, I think a lot of people do, where it's those one-sided relationships where we're in friendships with people that might not be as problematic as the relationship in our life, but the friendships might be problematic too, where they're one-sided. And so here we are giving and giving and giving, and this other person's taking and taking and taking, and we're confusing this dynamic with this being a friendship. But the reality is, this is not a friendship. This is us being used, right? Or us being really taken for granted. And then these people, kind of like the narcissists, to them, to us, they might be our best friend. But to them, we might just be an acquaintance. But because they're giving us these crumbs of affection and attention, we're making a much bigger deal out of it than what it really is. So, um, that was a pattern that I had been running in my life for a long time. And so I couldn't hang on to friendships. And I kept thinking, like, well, what is so wrong with me? Like, what, I feel like I'm a nice person, I'm a considerate person. I don't get it. Like, I don't get what is going on here. But the reality was, as I was befriending a lot of people, and it was one-sided. We got along famously. They were nice people, but they to them, I was an acquaintance, but I had made this friendship out to be a much bigger deal to me than it ever was to them. And it wasn't their fault, it was my fault. I didn't realize that I was doing that. And so again, it's just like this struggle with trying to figure out, valuing our emotions and valuing our time and taking things slow. And I think too, a lot of codependent people, we tend to not have a lot of friendship. We tend to like to have a few people that we're super close to, and then that's it. And so, sorry, my nose has been itching all night long. We tend to have a few people that we're really close to, and that's it. And that can be problematic in a relationship for sure, right? Um, but in friendships too, especially if it's these kind of like one-sided dynamics where these friendships aren't as deep to them as they are to us. So I don't know, just some things to possibly examine and to see. Oh, hi, Randy. Randy says, I can't meet any decent real life friends since I dropped my old ones. Yeah, it's difficult. It's harder. I think the older we get, it can be harder to meet people. But have you tried Meetup? Meetup.com? Again, like again, I get it. Like that's kind of hit or miss because it's the general public. But I have found that there's a lot of really awesome people in the meetup groups, and they're there to make friends. Like they're there to be social. They're there to, um, interact with other people. But again, general public can be kind of hit or miss. You might really gel with some people and then like not at all with others. Still Prill, hello, says the only real friends I have are the ones who have also been abused by narcissists. And I think that's common too, especially for people that are joining support groups, because you know well, I think there's a lot of reasons, but I think, codependent people, we tend to bond really deep with other people. And so here you have kind of this environment where people are telling like super personal stories. And so it's really understandable that people are going to develop these deep bonds and these deep friendships. And, um, you know, it's sort of like, I think with any other type of uh, intense group, like AA, like NA, like OA. any of those, because you're talking, people get you, like people get you, and it's, those issues of abuse of any kind, like of alcoholism, of drugs, of food, of shopping, of eating disorders, of abusive relationships. There's it's not just a relationship. There's so many other commonalities there, right? So, um, yeah, I can see how deep friendships would develop during that. Okay, Doug is signing out. So, good night, Doug. It was great seeing you again. As always, thank you for all your help and your amazing energy. It is much, much appreciated. So, and let's see. Oh, for those of you hopping on, because I'm going to hop off too here in a few minutes, um, is don't forget tomorrow night is going to be the Google Hangout. So Richard, Spartan Life Coach, and I are going to be doing a Google Hangout, and that video, as far as I know, because we all know how tech savvy I am, is going to be, if you go to his channel and you subscribe, then you'll be able, I believe, to get notified of the feed when it starts, the video stream when it starts. If you can't make it to the live stream, and it's tomorrow at 8 o'clock, I don't know if I said that, Eastern Standard Time. Um, if you can't make it, then I will have a link. I'll have the video on my site as well on Friday, so you can watch a replay of it. And I think we're doing question and answer. I'm not quite sure. It's going to be very laid back. Is kind of what we decided. So I don't know. Ethan says, did anyone else's narcissist act or say, I am really old, I'm really hard to live with? The worst part is mine is so sad at times. Anyone else experience this pity? Stories about his childhood, and I think he used this against me. So, yes, they do this. They make themselves out to be the victim. Everything that, you know, basically like whatever they're doing or whatever they don't like about themselves, they tend to project onto others, especially their target. And if we're their target, then that's what they do. So they might be manipulative, but then they're going to be accusing us of being manipulative. They might be verbally abusive and then accuse us of being verbally abusive. They might be really overweight and then accuse us of needing to lose weight. They might be, you know, do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's they just project all their stuff onto us. And so yes, that is very, very common. It's that whole grinding down thing too. So, oh, people are asking the time. Nope, tomorrow 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow with Richard, and it's going to be on his channel. So you can either subscribe to his channel, and if you haven't already, or it's going to be a Google Hangout. Google Hangout tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and there'll be a replay of it on, I'm sure, both of our channels, like afterwards. So like it'll be on this channel on Friday is when I'll have to coordinate and get the link and all that. So yes, Richard Grannon's, aka Spartan Life Coach. So let's see. Let me scroll up. Toxic Relationship says something about my bangs growing faster. I swear, man, it's the vitamin B. I've been taking vitamin B, and yes, my bangs are growing crazy fast. The rest of my hair, not so much, but my bangs. And that's probably just perception because I don't think that the hair grows like that. Like, I think it's probably growing at the same rate all over my head, but I notice my bangs. So, okay. Yeah, people are asking questions and signing off, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. Managing life's changes. Joined late. Says, what is love bombing? Love bombing is something that narcissists and sociopaths do, and it is like constant communication and constant compliments. They move at whirlwind speed. And so sometimes it's more obvious than others. So probably like the best example would be with online scammers. So like online scammers often talk in very flowery language. It's very much like, "Oh, my dearest, your name is like wine on my lips," and they just wax poetically on, with these emails that they send to their targets, and it's it's too much. Like, it's too much, and it's designed to be too much. But vulnerable people, lonely people, tend to really fall for it. That's kind of extreme because most of us can spot that kind of behavior. We can sense that something's off about that, but it's harder when it's in real life, to sometimes see it. But but generally it's them wanting to talk to you all the time, wanting to text all the time, wanting they just move really, really quick. They do what's called future faking, which is kind of painting this picture of this ideal future. So if they've gathered from you that, let's say, you are, I don't know, you want to raise alpacas in Belize, right? Then they might start talking about like how amazing it would be to raise alpacas and how they would love to go to Belize and blah blah blah. So they start mirroring their target, and kind of whatever you want, they want. Now, granted, some of this is normal human behavior. This is how human beings bond to each other when we're getting to know each other. But with a narcissist and a sociopath, it's more intense, and it will most likely register as something that's out of the ordinary. Because again, healthy people don't move that fast, and they don't do those kinds of things. So again, just kind of going with your gut. So, okay, guys, it is 10:45. I am actually going to sign off here so I can go to bed and try to get to bed at a decent time. I am so sorry. Thank you for being so patient and understanding about technical issues yet again. I will do my very best to um, deal with this and to get this figured out before next week. And we will go from there. But if it's still messing up next week, I will go and do Periscope as well. So we can always have, you know, we'll figure something out. So good night, guys. Lots of love to you. You are not alone. You are not crazy, and you really can move forward and heal from this. So have an absolutely fantastic week. Thank you guys so much for supporting each other, and you know, for all that you do for each other, and for the great conversations and the great questions, and just you guys are just amazing. So just lots of love to you guys, and I will be seeing you soon. Okay, bye.